QA for Jira and 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. It's just simple. In our work we encountered 4 major testing problems that the QA for Jira plugin solves. And now we will show you how to do it.
Today, the 4th rider of the apocalypse. The test rider of the apocalypse. Indeed. Tomek, I am asking you about covering requirements with tests in QA-Craft. Good topic. I think so too, and I hope that I will learn something interesting, because the topic is, to be honest, a bit unfamiliar to me. And after our talks so far, my head brightens, so I think that the educational aspect and presentation of the advantages of QA-Craft by even such a man as I, who are technical, makes me to think. Tom, what are these requirements? Physically, what is it? What is in this word? In QA-Craft, a requirement may be an issue that we will configure in such a way that QA-Craft treats it as a requirement. We basically use story only practically so far. However, if we wanted to introduce a new issue type to Jira, for example, defining our set of requirements, from the QA-Craft level we can say, from now on, treat this particular issue type as a requirement. This, of course, is only an introduction to management, defining our set of requirements. Because we used to approach in such a way that we only defined a set of requirements based on what is happening in the connection between the test case and what we associate with the test case. So if from the test case level we picked up a requirement, when the requirement was added to our set of requirements, and this way we controlled what we called the requirement. Of course, this not necessarily have to be true, as we have never been sure that what we combined with the test case is our complete set of requirements. So we have developed a functionality that allows us to define our entire basket of requirements from the QA-Craft level. That is all we treat as a requirement and want to handle our tests, and we can do it from there. It looks something like this. We are at the test plan level. This test plan is not extensive, but we are just starting to design our tests. What do we have here? We don't have any requirements defined yet. We click Select Requirements, and here we see everything that we treat in Jira as a requirement. So wherever we have an issue type treated by QA-Craft as a requirement, it will appear in this window in the form of a collapsed tree structure, and we can first choose the project in which our requirements are found. Here the situation may be different. It may be one project. It may be several different projects in Jira, each contributing its set of requirements to the test. Hence, the need for requirements not only from the current project, but also from all over Jira. Okay, let's take a sample project that I created for our presentations. Okay, this is our project. We have our requirements in this project. And they are specifically story. In this case, group it. One level below, we see the stories that are in this particular epic. A very simple matter. We also see stories that are uploaded without any hierarchy. They are not uploaded to any epic, and since they are displayed on a tree, they need to be distinguished somehow and there is a special branch that shows the story not linked to any epic. Only because the level of the tree from which we select specific requirements was aligned, and we would not have to guess where they are. Well, for example, this, and that is our requirement. From now on, at the test plan level, a tree appears that shows our set of requirements. This is what we choose. Is it a choice once and for all? Of course not. If we want to add another requirement, notice here that in this tree, what we have previously selected is marked. We omitted one of the requirements, we save the changes, and of course we have this requirement included in our requirements basket. Here, the requirements defined in this way cannot yet be covered by test cases in any way, because we have just added them to our test plan. This is one way to associate requirements with a test plan. If we had test cases already defined in our test plan and wanted to associate it with a requirement from the level of the test case, then the requirements would also fall into our requirements basket. The second method defines what it finds in the basket of requirements. Of course, at any time we can see the test coverage report, which shows us that this set of requirements is not yet covered by the tests. And this is such a classic approach. We have a set of requirements, create a test plan, attach a set of requirements to a test plan. Now we start designing test cases. We combine individual test cases with a specific requirement that these cases support. We perform tests, and here, having the requirements covered with tests, we observe from the requirements perspective what is happening in our tests. However, in agile methodologies, we have to approach it a bit differently. I can see combining these test requirements in QAcraft is quite simple. That was the assumption. It was supposed to be simple. The structure of the table and the tree structure make it very easy for us to work with these test cases. You mentioned agile methodologies. Let's also talk about the Scrum approach in QAcraft for Jira. The supporters and opponents of this approach are known. What it looks like in QAcraft. Here the situation looks a bit different, because here no one defines a set of requirements for the entire project, but rather iteratively in the software development cycle. We have sprints. Each sprint contributes the right amount of story to be tested. How to solve it? We don't know the end of defining our story. We don't know how many sprints are still ahead of us, so we can do it as follows. Here, for example, we have defined requirements for one of our sprints. This is a collection of, let's count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 story requirements grouped into 2 epic. If we enter the level of such a specific story, then QAcraft to the level of this issue type, which treats as a requirement, adds its own piece of code. One section that allows you to create test cases directly from the requirement level. And now we have a story. We have a create test case button, and from this level we can execute the following action. We assume that we are in the first sprint and we have not handled any story yet. No test case. We are just starting. What can we do? Here we have a project that we can choose. In example, the place where our test plan is created. Let's say it. Could be the same project, test plan. Two methods. We can choose the existing one, but we don't have it yet, or we can enter the name of the test plan. Test suite. How can I group it correctly? It would be most convenient to leave the test plan as a place where we store everything. An example, support for all sprints that are still ahead, while at the test suite level we can define which sprint we want to handle. We are just starting. We do not have any sprint defined, so we will create the first sprint. Finished. Name of the test case and save. At this point, as you can see, 3 issues have been created automatically, in succession. QA-Craft made sure that the test plan was created. To create a test suite in this plan called Sprint 1 and including a test suite test case whose name was just entered. This test case is visible here from the requirement level. In example, you can see how it works immediately after putting it on. What now? Suppose this story handles not one requirement but 2 test cases. We add another. We can choose the test plan from the list. This is our test plan that we created in the previous test case. We created in the first sprint, because we have already created one from the test suite level. I am not giving the name from the keyboard, but the name that already exists. And we have a second test case. At this point, you can see that this particular requirement is handled by these 2 test cases. And now, as if I followed the issue list, in example, handled every requirement from top to bottom, there will be cases for all my requirements, and if I now enter one test case, we will see that a test plan with a test suite called Sprint 1 has been created containing our 2 test cases. Here everything is so clear and in a clearly defined form. This is quite a simplification when implementing tests. We also talked about the human factor. An example, about reliable definition of the requirements that we want to test. What does it look like in QA-Craft? QA-Craft is only software, so it does not have any artificial intelligence mechanism that will verify that the person doing specific tests correctly or not. For example, we have a set of requirements here. Developers execute some code based on the set of requirements. Testers should have take the same set of requirements into QA-Craft as our set of requirements and handle it. For as many test cases as will be needed to test a specific functionality. The fact that the same set of requirements is taken for development and testing roughly means that we tested what was ordered against the requirements. However, did the testers do it honestly or not? Did they handle the specific requirements with the correct number of test cases? QAcraft is not able to recognize this. Here we count on the fact that testers are engineers who know their job, and if they design tests, they design the right number of test cases. QAcraft makes testing easier. Of course, it makes it easier that here in the table showing the coverage of requirements with tests, he reports those requirements that have not handled by anyone yet. In example, like this. First, they were included in QAcraft as part of our set of requirements. But no test has yet been created for this requirements case that supports them. This is such a convenience for the person who designs or supervises the test execution. It screams, serve me. Just do it.